Okay, good evening, everybody. Director Buer may not make it to this meeting, but she is our alternate, so we will proceed as planned. Rich, I can turn it over to you, or I can start because I think the first one is on the agenda because of me.
Sure. Why don't we hand it off to you then?
Okay.
Okay.
That was easy. So I asked Dina and Rich to pull 903 again, which is sort of an endless cycle of 903. I'd like the committee to revisit the presentation section of our policy. So to catch everybody in, and Mr. Hallowell, you might not have all the benefit of this. So well, you have enough, I'm sure. At the last board meeting, we received a request for a presentation about a particular topic.
It wasn't really.
And that was not the topic. So, I think we had put this particular piece of the policy. So Dina, if you don't mind scrolling down, just so we can get to the relevant part.
Yeah,
I think it's sign in and request a comment, right? It's that first paragraph, I believe. So back, I think this has been in the policy for some time, but in this, I'll call them the cell phone wars, Chairkit 2024, groups of parents were coming together and they wanted to present it as a group. So we offered 7 minutes for group presentations, but didn't put a lot of rules around it because who knew that we needed rules. So when Dina was approached at the last meeting for 7 minutes for a presentation, we didn't think much of it, but clearly, given what transpired, I think it makes good sense to put, well, I think we have two options. We have been informed by our solicitor that no one else has this. It's a uniquely Palisades thing to do presentations at all. Number one, so I suppose we have the option of not doing them, or the other option is to put some parentheses around this. Dina, be happy for your input as well, but I know a couple things that have come up, even on what ended up being legitimate presentations, were the request to present materials, which got, like somebody would request the 7 minutes in time, so we'd offer them the 7 minutes, and then all of a sudden they wanted to put in a PowerPoint that we haven't seen, and what if there was inappropriate material in the PowerPoint? It got tricky real quick. So this, I think, goes in the no good deed goes unpunished bucket, but would love the committee's input, and certainly, Dina, if there's any other things that have come up, and happy to tweak them if you see that, but happy for the committee's feedback since I pulled this, but I haven't really pulled the committee to see what they think.
I'm a little bit surprised to hear that David said that other districts don't have this, because I think it's part of PSBA policy. I think we've discussed it at conferences before, in that very context of submitting materials. An administrator or whoever would be reviews all materials before a presentation of that sort. I think that's how it is handled at some other places.
Yeah, I'm not saying nowhere, but he seemed to suggest that at least around here, and I don't know that that's the right answer, is to get rid of it. We put it in for a reason, and I'd like to believe that reason still exists, and we really do want to hear from groups, and there was some core of something there that night too. It just didn't materialize the way it could have or should have.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the presentation per se. I think over the past 15, it has been fine. The presentations have been helpful for the board to hear. Whether they took action on them or not didn't matter. It was presenting an idea either that didn't come through a committee first, or it didn't necessarily relate to any committee. So I feel the presentation component of the board meetings have been used appropriately and successfully in the past, and inform the board on issues important to either a constituent or a group. So I would definitely support keeping, that's me though, keeping the presentation as part of of that, but putting some,
There should be some review
sure,
prior to the meeting. Maybe not everything, but at least enough so we know where they're going,
mhm,
or you know where they're going. I don't
Yeah.
know where they're
that
going.
they're actually going to present on what they
Yeah.
told us they were going to present on would be helpful. How you police that is a little tricky. So, I will spitball kind of, go ahead, Corey.
In the 4 years that I've been here, I don't remember there ever being presentations
Very
other than what we just had, which wasn't a presentation.
Court, it happens rarely. I'm trying to think, like, we may have had one on solar
Yeah.
at one point. I remember years ago,
Yeah.
there was one from Haycock, resident, like, there
Oh.
have been, they're rare.
Was there
Yeah,
something
we
about
probably
that,
had-
a group came in
Yeah,
for
yeah,
the
there were a bunch of
preservation of farmland?
Farmers, yeah.
Oh, farmland preservation. is a
I
good
think the
one.
group in the spring of 24-ish maybe did a cell phone presentation.
I think my group back in 17, 18, we didn't get 7 minutes, but we did a presentation. We did a survey and did a presentation on, I don't remember what we did the presentation on. And the idea, the impetus was rather than having 16 parents say, I want this, like
Right.
to kind of collapse their time into
Yes.
something more fruitful for everybody. I mean, I think that was the
Yes.
genesis, right?
The representative for the group would make the statements, whatever.
Yeah.
You're talking about a presentation, like PowerPoint something.
Well, I don't think when we did this, we were thinking about the PowerPoint. We were just thinking about the 7 minutes. And then I think the cell phone folks somebody wanted to show a PowerPoint. And then we got anxious because, we know the people, but what's on the what if they put up something inappropriate?
And that was the last minute. I feel like that was like the.
That
day
wasn't
of
in on
request.
time, so we denied that on policy grounds simply because they hadn't followed policy in that case. So, but that's what triggered we really have to figure out PowerPoints. In that case, we told them to make photocopies and they handed the physical copies to the board and had it for folks. But, just hadn't thought about it. Go ahead, Linda.
Well, I don't even see presentation like in this section. Is there another section that uses the word presentation? Because this is just talking about comment.
Well, inclusion on the agenda for formal comment, so that's.
Right, but I don't see presentation, so I don't see
I know that's,
like Cora, I think, is asking a presentation. It doesn't necessarily say that it has to be presentation.
It
it's just
doesn't, I don't
comment.
know that it has to be.
Mhm,
I don't know that we anticipated that far. We were thinking of comment,
mhm.
and then somebody asked for the power. So it's just things that we hadn't quite
Right.
fleshed out. Go ahead.
This is in here under authority. And I think that may be where when in address to the incident last month, when a comment can be ended. Because what the comment started out as was not where it ended up at. And so maybe we just need to be mindful of that, and people that are that are requesting to present need to be made aware of that.
So generally, we cannot, we couldn't stop it based on the attack itself. But to your point, Betsy, I think if somebody says it's on X and it ends up being on Y, we should put something in here that says if the group, I don't know how,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm spitballing, but
Yeah,
if the
no,
group
yeah.
says they're gonna present on X and ends up presenting on Y, that the board has the authority to stop the 7 minutes Now, they still get they still have a right to the public comment period. So they get booted to public comment in 3 minutes. But I think that has to be in there, right?
Yeah, and I think with our board agenda, just as it's structured, that third section is for recognition and presentation. So that's typically, our kids are doing amazing things, we're presenting on the budget, we're doing those types of presentations. So we definitely use that section. I think what's different here is when we have a member of the, public using that section for presentation purposes. So maybe that's why it's not necessarily.
I think that's why we're using the word presentation, because
Because that's where we
Yes.
usually put it.
Yeah.
So
Right.
you understand. So when somebody asks for that, the intention is that they would go into the recognitions and presentations section of the board agenda.
Oh,
But it didn't happen
why
that,
would it go in
it
the
got,
comment section?
it just hasn't been cleanly,
I think because it becomes part of the agenda.
It's, by putting it in that section, I think we have a little more control over it.
well, and people have noticed that something is happening, right? So, and that was another tricky part. So once, say, the presentation actually was about security guards, if people who are against security guards knows that there's a presentation about security guards, we should be transparent about that, and people can come out and see what's happening and see the presentation in real time. So it's an effort towards transparency as well.
Can we require a presenter to submit their papers, work, whatever, in enough time to get it attached to the agenda so that everybody can see it?
So that's the request for a week in advance. I mean, if they want more time than
Right, but
what's
a
typical.
week in advance so that it can be and that it will be attached to the agenda. I mean, if there's some sort of formal PowerPoint, some sort of presentation.
But if it's on the board agenda, they're not gonna know if the comment is on the board agenda, which is the first comment section.
Right.
They're not gonna know what the agenda is a week in advance.
No, it's even before the first comment
It's in
period.
the presentations and presentation recognition. So we have our meeting opening, call to order, salute the flag, roll call, announcements, and then the next one's recognition and presentation. And that's typically where we give kids certificates
But I
for,
thought that was pre-administration, not
it's typically used in that way, but there have been instances over, umpteen years in which if someone says, I want to give a presentation, that's where it goes, and then that presentation will be listed. So they're doing something on solar, or we're presenting on,
Oh.
rarely happens.
That way it's publicly in the agenda, because if we bump them to comment periods for 7 minutes, then it's not in the agenda, and they're giving a presentation and other people don't. So it's tricky.
Okay, I wondered how he got that time.
So
because I
he
thought that
absolutely asked in advance. So he,
For a
There was
presentation.
some,
Okay.
it
it was a
got
little
messy.
messy, but yeah.
It got messy, and that, when I say it was messy during the day, some pieces of it were messy, not of his own doing. So it was messy. It was all kinds of messy. I think there was a little bit of a miscommunication. So I think my direction of travel here is to keep it, but to pull it out and to call it out, like have it in something, because here it gets lost, right? So take that paragraph.
Where is that?
So it's right under sign in, Cora. All individuals may request inclusion on the agenda. So I would make that paragraph a separate section, TBD what it's called. I feel like it used to say presentation at one point.
Public presentations.
So may request inclusion on the agenda instead of for a formal comment to the board. I mean, maybe that's where we get tripped up too, because comments are comments and presentations are, so maybe, and I'm spitballing, so I'm welcome. So for a presentation a formal presentation to the board at an open board meeting by, and then number one, registering their intent with the board secretary 7 days in advance of the meeting. 2, well, name, municipality, fine. And then we need to flush out topic to be addressed and group affiliation.
including any,
Um,
whatever.
Do we want to let people do, I mean, it introduces all sorts of difficulties for PowerPoints and stuff. I just don't think we should do that because, I mean, they could still give us a presentation, they can always print it out. And we can attach materials on the board agenda. I don't know. Because it just allows for some viewpoint, I don't know. I
Well,
welcome feedback here.
Yeah, it does seem different to me to call something a presentation, particularly like you suggested in the past with the solar, the farmland
Mhm.
preservation and whatever.
Mhm.
That makes sense to me to call that presentation. It doesn't make sense to me to call comment and treat comment the same way we do presentation when we're suggesting that to have one individual represent a group of people who have the same perspective to cut down on the number of commenting, saves time, that I think they need to be treated differently.
Okay, so you do presentation and then, or, well.
I personally
Yeah.
don't know that I'm in agreement with having to see what an individual wants to share in comment other than maybe the topic.
So I
To
don't,
choose-
like, I don't need to, the only time I'd want to see is if they're asking us to put it on the big screen. That's where I have, like, I don't want to see like a draft of what they're going to say. That's not appropriate. What trips us up is, and from a technical perspective, and then from a who knows what's on their perspective, is go throw this on your projector. That makes me anxious and should, because you never know.
Well, that's where I would see presentations handled differently than comment. So let's go back to your scenario with the cell phone, right? There were parents that brought us information from survey results. And I think that very easily could have just been shared on the screen, though I appreciated having, because I'm a paper person. Sorry.
So in that case, we weren't worried about, they emailed it to us, but they emailed it to us like a half an hour before the board, like, that was a technical issue. Like,
Oh.
so
Right, okay.
there's no shortage of, like, we
Yeah.
weren't scared about that, and that's
Yeah.
why it was just easier to have them print it out and give it to us.
Mhm,
We weren't trying to suppress the information.
mhm.
Gary needs to be able to show it. So if in that meeting, there's no, you know, not all meetings, we don't use the projector for all of our things, right?
Mhm.
I have maybe some help.
Yeah.
So I'm just taking a look at the difference between obviously presentation and public comment. So I think there's some language we could put around that. Well, so as we know, we're required to provide time for for public comment, but the board is not required to provide time for an open forum or presentation. So there can be rules around when you would decide to do that. Like if there's times in the spring where we have so many kids that we're recognizing that the board just deems that they don't have the time.
Yeah.
It could be a time constraint. It could be not related to school business. Someone wants to come and say I'm just gonna make something up. They wanna start their own business for textbooks and they want the school district to support, their new publishing house or something. So I think there are things that are not the district's of their interest or their authority to make a determination on. So if we want to just, and I'm not sure if we could do it for this meeting, but maybe for the next meeting, we can come back with some language and some guidelines around if the board wants to continue to have an opportunity for presentation. What are those things that the board may say, we just either don't have the time for this presentation, we're doing budget right now, for whatever reason you may have, and then go from there. You have to provide public comment, which you do. You're not required to allow time for a public open forum at your board meeting.
Yeah, there's parts of that that I really like, because I always, in my head, I've always had this idea about like board meetings, that they're public meetings, not meetings of the public.
Correct. They're
And
there for
so,
the public to
That's
watch
right.
you do your
But
business.
it's not a meeting that the public, it's a board meeting.
It is,
So I
yes.
do think definitely needs to be the public comment. Yes, we could do presentations, but it's also, I do think there needs to be probably some oversight, I guess. on if-
Which is tricky, which
It
is
is
tricky.
tricky.
But
It
I do
is,
like
yeah.
Bridget's suggestion, to your point, Karen, that it has to, for a matter that would come, like the cell phone policy
Yes,
would have come
and
before.
they
the
did a
board.
good job, and you're
Yeah,
right, they didn't present, right?
No, they didn't ask it
They
in
gave
time.
us
Yeah.
the document,
Yeah.
which I thought was good, but they didn't present, which I.
Farmland
Right.
preservation, something
Yeah.
that's, the board
Yeah.
needs to make that determination. And we may have discussed it, we always do now in a committee meeting, but we have the farmland preservation person in Bucks County come and do a presentation, like,
Yeah.
those things make sense.
Yeah.
They're of interest to the board because you need that information to make a
Okay.
determination.
I think we'd like that direction of travel, so
Okay,
maybe
why
you
don't we
can
come
help.
back with something?
Can I raise though, let's go back to the comment though, that leaves the group who wants to comment but doesn't present.
Can I say
Yeah,
something
yeah,
about the
please.
situation we just had? So
Yeah.
this is where we had some confusion. Because I said to the gentleman when he called me, I said, are you looking to present to the board or do you just want to make a public comment? And he said, I want to make a public comment. I said, fine, then you don't need to give me that notice. You just sign in on the sheet as normal.
Mhm.
The day of the meeting, he calls me and he says, I want the 7 minutes. So really, he wanted a public comment, but he wanted his time extended to 7 minutes. So that's where I use the presentation and the
Yeah,
public
works.
comment.
Yeah.
One
So
is
mess-
7,
just
one is
mess.
3. You can't just have a person that's like, well, I just want to extend my time
Yeah,
for
yeah,
4
yeah.
minutes.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, but that's where we need to make
Yeah,
it clear,
yeah,
because
I
it makes
agree,
sense to me that rather than have 16, 20, 26, whatever, people say the same thing, you just have one. So I do think though that the intent was to allow for that, no? Am I mistaken?
I think the intent was to allow for that, but we still haven't gotten back to the problem of somebody who asks for 7 minutes because they want to present on something and then just uses the 7, like,
Well, it sounds like his intent was just to comment, but he wanted to be assured of the 7 minutes because
But he
It
never
was
said
ex-
he was with a group either. So then there's that other piece.
So do we have like a definition of presentation here?
nope.
Is a presentation more informational than
It has
personal
been,
opinion?
Yeah.
And I do
Put it that
think it
way.
is a group thing.
Yeah, that was my interpretation, was a
Yeah.
group, it was a,
Oh, wow, yeah.
so groups could come together and
Right.
amalgamate.
or one person, the Bucks County farmland preservation person.
Right.
He wasn't a group, but the board, I think,
Yeah.
asked
He
him at that
represented.
time,
Have some.
can you give us more information? So he
Right.
came out and did it. That happened with solar. I feel like we've had more than one solar
Oh, there's
presentation
a
over the
few
years.
there, yes.
Because the board was taking that under consideration, whether they were gonna go in that direction. So I wouldn't wanna say it just has to be a group of people, because it could be an individual. It really depends on the nature of it could be either.
right, right. Mhm, yep.
So if okay, we can put some language around this.
Yeah,
Like
no, I don't think we've solved our problem. Have we solved our problem?
I think we'll
Remember,
solve,
Bridget, when we were changing teachers, I think it was at Springfield, and the parents kept coming up, and each one would just
Yeah.
keep coming up and saying the same thing. So
Correct.
we told them, get one speaker, so
Right.
you're not wasting the board's time, by
Correct.
coming up every time.
yep.
So that was, I forget how that was done, whether they got somebody on the agenda.
So maybe that presentation time, as we've had it in the past, and there haven't been issues around those, have been to inform the board of an issue that may come before them in the near future for deliberation. Right? Like when I think of
Yeah,
those,
yeah.
those issues, the board needed to decide about, homestead, farmstead. The board needed to decide about solar. There was a group, this is years ago, but a group of residents that, wanted to switch school districts. This is years ago. That was also a presentation, because the board needed to say yay or nay and, decide what they were gonna do. Those were for informational purposes. Whereas public comment, you know,
They don't,
we
they
do
don't
encourage
like what,
whatever it may be.
decision about, yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
That's
and-
right.
And they want like when the class, the IU class closed.
That's right.
I mean, there were only,
Good example.
there were only 2 or 3 at that point, but if there had been 7 or 8,
Yep.
so how do you?
Then we don't give 7 minutes though. No one gets 7
They
minutes.
shouldn't need them.
Yeah, they
Those
usually
are
get
just
3,
They
but
can't say.
still, but if you have
They
7 or 8
three.
that get 3, then that's.
Right.
So it's either
A
a
lot of minutes.
presentation where you get, I don't know if we're gonna have a time limit on that, we'll talk about that, but, or 3 minutes.
Well, doesn't the 7-minute have to be approved by the board president or not?
So no, not, not under the policy right now.
But it does say the topic to be addressed, so the topic to be
Yeah,
addressed.
so the
Yeah,
topic I got, so the topic that came before me was more security guards.
Right.
In each building.
Right.
So that,
Yeah.
that could be a presentation, data, information,
Yeah.
you know, whatever. It
Right.
certainly could have been a presentation. Topic and,
But it wasn't.
right.
I like what Karen said about defining them. Like
Yeah.
define what a presentation is, define what a public comment is. If the
Yeah.
board wants to move in a direction of public comment representing a group, what is that, how is that differentiated from just public comment? If that's
Well,
what you
maybe you
want
guys can throw some things against the
Yeah.
wall and
Yeah.
give us some
I-
choice.
I'd like-
I'm really looking and specifically, like, if somebody represents themselves in public like, I don't want it to be a subterfuge to get everybody getting 7 minutes.
And maybe that section for recognitions and presentations are typically administrative presentations, recognitions. So maybe that section is reserved for that group unless the board seeks someone,
Right.
requests someone to do a presentation.
Let them request it from the administration. Administration approves it.
Well, I guess,
Possibly, but I feel like the ones that we've talked about have come out of like buildings and grounds. We're talking about solar. So we needed more information for the full board to hear the same thing. That's why they were invited by maybe they're invited by the board to get more information on an issue.
It gets tricky, I mean, that gets into
But
a
if
little
you're-
viewpointy.
I feel like if it comes out of committee though, I mean,
Didn't we kind of have a presentation by those 2 women, was it buildings?
no,
that was EPS.
And that was
Just
just
more
public
comment.
comment,
That was comment.
and that wasn't lengthy.
Yeah, but I kind of felt like it was because I didn't know anything about. Are we talking about the same thing?
We are.
I don't think it was EPS because I remember I was sitting.
Yeah, it was,
And they're sitting on.
it was programs and services.
Was it EPS?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, they were talking about,
Preventing human trafficking.
oh,
And
yeah.
they had materials that they wanted to share,
But
sure.
that was kind of what I would think of as what you're talking about in the presentation.
So imagine that spontaneously, but then Dina gets the call that they want to show slide, you know. We just need to really,
Yeah,
because I don't want Dina in the position of saying, yes, no, maybe so, I don't know. And I can't on the fly, you know, driving from New York to here, or anybody who's in leadership for the board, make fly decisions on Wednesday as to whether their slides are like, the 7 minutes, if we're gonna do 7 minutes as a group for comment, maybe we don't do presentations at all and just do a 7-minute comment for a group. It has to be registered, no slides, I don't know.
About board presentation, public presentation approved by the board. Topic approved by the board.
But does approved by the board suggest blessing by the board? So I would normally let a whether I agree or disagree with, I don't want it to connotate that we're gonna vote in favor of something.
to me, it's clear in my head for informational purposes.
Okay,
For more-
Bridget's got a plan.
I
I
feel
think
like I-
Bridget's gonna
Yeah,
draft this
Let me
thing.
just give
You
just
two
give me
are
a
out of
little
luck.
time, just give me a little time to put something that we can then like
Yeah.
look at next.
And then
time
we'll
we're
show
together.
David Kahn and make sure, you know, we have to be very, very careful
Yes,
here, but.
yes.
You know, I'm thinking of like a couple of years ago, maybe a year ago, I forget, they all kind of run together, but there was somebody that came to talk about the bond market and give the board more information
Brad
about.
Remming came and talked about whether we
He
should,
came to a board meeting.
I think he
I
did
think
come
he
to a
did,
board
because
meeting.
I think it started at fiscal, And then it ended up in front of the full board, so they had all the information on both sides of re-upping the bond or not before it went to vote.
And he would be an expert able to answer any question that may come from a board member, just like our Bucks County representative for, Homestead Farmstead.
And he would, I would imagine, I don't know, but I would imagine he would probably invite it after fiscal to come to board
Yeah.
before the thing's vote kind of thing. I think
Okay.
that was a presentation.
The only other thing that I was gonna say is, the examples that were given about, having some topic and then the same people getting up, saying the same thing over and over again. I totally agree with that. We don't need to be here like until 2 a.m. hearing the same thing, but the only thing that I would like to know, is like how many people feel that way? You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to sit there and listen to 20 comments of the same thing, but I would like to know that 20 people sitting there feel that way. So like, how do we get that info? Yeah. So that's the only thing. Like, if we say, hey, I'm getting up there and I'm gonna represent a whole bunch of
Oh, I
people,
see what you're
I'd like to know just a little bit more, like how many people? I mean,
Well, I think
again, I want me to leave
that was
20
a-
reasons, 20
That was a
comments.
discussion item the last time,
Oh, was it?
and that somehow this group elects, nominates, or whatever, presents someone to represent the group. Now, how they say that, I don't know.
Yeah, I
but-
don't know.
Yeah, almost like we need them, yeah. Okay, we'll give it to Bridget to
Yeah,
draft
yeah,
something
yeah.
up and then we'll discuss it next time. Thank you.
It only took half an hour.
All right.
You're not gonna be at that meeting.
My only other question is, and again, this is, does there need to be something in the policy for the board, to support the board president if somebody
Yes.
gets up
Yes.
there and doesn't follow the rules?
Yes,
That-
I think
It
that's-
is that we can, what is it, that we say that we can shut that down? Like, is that,
Well,
There's
yes,
something in there.
generally, but not, I would prefer it specifically to say,
if you don't?
if somebody makes a representation about what they're gonna speak
Yeah.
about, and,
I mean, that's a hard one also.
yeah,
Because-
because they still get 3 minutes,
Well,
right?
but also,
So-
yeah, it's,
Yeah.
it's hard.
You can't cut out, you can't
Right.
toss out the speech, you can only limit the time, right?
What about personal attacks?
Right.
They,
We have that.
I'm gonna give out the
There's all
Pensbury
kinds, there's a whole
decision
list
down
of
in Lower
stuff that
Bucks.
they're not allowed to say.
So the last
Yeah, we
court
do.
decision out from Pennsylvania was, I don't remember the gentleman's name, but down in Pensbury, who attacked, what was essentially their DEI officer. And they, did 2 things. They removed either the recording or the video and then, stopped that person from speaking. The judge declared all of it against the law and they had to pay a pretty penalty. So,
They declared what the board did.
yeah, you need to allow that speech. You cannot censor the speech because it's a personal
Even if
attack.
even if they're doing personal.
Yep.
I mean, there is stuff in here, but yeah, it's on page 3, I guess. Presiding officer, district solicitor have the authority to.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and that was, we sort of waited on that, Karen, because
Right.
we were waiting for that Pensbury decision for a while. We knew it was coming. So profanity, there's a couple of little,
Yeah, so-
so this, I think the PSBA has carefully drawn on the basis of that. It used to say no personal attacks. We have since removed that because that was the specific, because Pensbury had the exact same policy we did. It was the PSBA policy. We can ask David tonight as well, but he's made that pretty clear to me. True threat, the word true threats, imminent lawlessness like this that's a high bar that we have in here. Okay, all right, so that'll come back at us. Rich, you want to take, I've talked enough. You want to start us on 122?
Yeah, we want to take a look tonight at 122.1. Maybe we should start there because
Yeah.
as I recall the last conversation, we didn't want to take a look at 122 until we were gonna make a decision on 122.1. So 122.1 is non-school sponsored student groups. This would be a new policy. I reviewed it with Dina, and we're recommending that the district and the committee considers adopting it. And let me tell you why we're coming to that end. We already do this. If a student comes with an idea to have a group that's non-school sponsored, we work with them to make it happen. These are voluntary type of things. We provide the opportunity for those students to gather their group and to get together, as long as they have an adult supervisor there with them. So essentially, when I read this over, and I read it over a couple times, 122.1, we're doing these things. It's just not in policy. So you could say to me and the district, hey, listen, if it's working, keep it that way. If you want to capture it in policy to make sure that it's always done that way, that's really your call as a committee. The one thing that I would not recommend checking is on the bottom of page 2, where there's a box for the board to decide whether or not you want to check this. The student group may not be advertised as a school-sponsored activity. All announcements and disseminated materials must include a disclaimer of school sponsorship and endorsement. Listen, we'll advertise it for the kids if they wanted to advertise. I don't know that we need to put a disclaimer in there that it's not a school-sponsored group. I have an adult there with them, and I'll give you a perfect example. Pray at the Pole. Pray at the Pole is a group of students who, quite honestly, just recently came to me. They said, Mr. Heff, we'd like to get a group together to pray at the Pole once a month. I said, fine with me. And I said, the only thing you need to do is to make sure you have an adult supervisor and you have at least 8 students. They're like, okay, we'll look in to get back to you. I said, they got back to me a couple days later, we have it. I said, okay, you can advertise. The end. They want to do it at 7 in the morning, once a month. Once they get their schedule together, they'll share it with me so I know and I can pass it along to our maintenance guys. I don't know that I needed to put it out there, this is not a school-sponsored group. We're letting the kids use the facility, we're letting them gather voluntarily.
And this is student initiated?
Yes,
Okay.
students came to me with the idea.
Yeah, and just so I'm clear, and I think I am, so non-school organizations, they're going to have an adult supervisor, but not paid for, so this is not an EDR, because, okay, yeah. And extracurricular activities always have a school paid
Correct.
EDR person.
That's right.
Do they have that though with putting that, people had to put that on any flyers that they were handing out?
There was
I'm
something in
struggling with
policy
this a
about
little
that, I
bit.
think, there was.
Just to make it just very
Yeah.
clear as to
Not school sponsored.
Correct.
Okay, we can do it then.
do it.
So check it.
Material prepared for dissemination, it's right there.
Yeah, so which policy did we check it in, do you know?
Excuse
Do
me?
you remember which policies checked in?
I don't think it's in a policy, I think we just.
Oh, it's in our, you know where
Yeah,
it is?
yeah,
It's in our facilities.
Facilities.
document.
That's
Yeah, at the top
That's
of the
correct.
page.
So why don't we
Yeah,
borrow, it doesn't
facilities
have to be exactly the same. And to your point, Rich, that doesn't mean that the students can't put out, like, it can go in the patch, it can do, but it would have the same disclaimer or a similar disclaimer.
Yeah, we have that in our facilities, use that language.
Yeah,
It's very
because,
We had an issue.
no, I can't remember if it was Joanne or Betsy, that's why I'm hesitating, I think it was Joanne. Clearances, right? So the adult who's sponsoring the activity we don't check clearances, we have no, right? We have no connection to the activity.
Correct, but in this case, quite honestly, it is one of our teachers that's gonna help them at 7 in the morning, so that's fine.
Yeah, you
What
got a
does
teacher
make
sponsor.
Right,
parents
yeah,
about
yeah.
volunteer in a non-sponsored school activity?
That's a David Kahn question, I don't know, no?
No.
Make it very clear.
Yeah, because like girls, I mean, we assume that the organization that they are working through, if they are working, so Girl Scouts is a
Girl
good
Scouts would be a
example.
yeah.
Like, you guys wouldn't check me as a Girl Scout leader. The
Yeah.
Girl Scouts are checking me as a Girl Scout leader, but it's not the school's obligation. That's why I do think the disclaimer is important,
that's
just
good,
so
yeah.
we keep ourselves at arm's length, because we are not doing the kind of due diligence and don't want to suggest to the parents that
We've vetted.
you've done the checks,
Yeah.
because we haven't done the checks.
Well,
But that doesn't mean that you can't put the flyer up. The flyer just has to have the appropriate,
The school policy, school visitor policy still in effect, no matter where they're on campus, right?
Say
A
that
school
again, Jim?
visitor is a visitor on campus, not necessarily inside the building. So they have to comply with the visitors policy.
So our visitors do swipe through Raptor, so we do know, like, if they're
If they're
coming in.
meeting outside,
Um,
Not necessarily.
well, we still have to be careful here.
Yeah, non-instructional time here is defined.
Yeah.
As, like it says, before or after classroom instruction, or during time designated for lunch. So like, does that mean that somebody, like, could, like, just come in from the outside and do something during lunch, during the?
We don't allow that for anybody.
Yeah, and
You
that's,
used to have
that's, I
one,
think there's some reconciliation that needs to be done
So-
here.
Okay.
Maybe we can remove some of that.
Yeah, I wonder too, or.
Yeah, we can clean up a little bit.
Because then this talks about doing this during non-instructional time,
Maybe we become more specific.
like before or after school, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
and
Yeah.
even
Yeah,
farther,
school
yes.
hours or something.
Right,
yeah.
because,
Right.
I keep picking over here, because we don't do all of the clearance and checks,
Yeah.
right? We never have an outside, so Girl Scouts doesn't come in at 3, like right after the end of school, because we don't want people that haven't been cleared to overlap. This is largely the elementary
Yes.
school, so not a high school problem as much. We don't overlap things, we give a buffer to clear our students out and then open up.
Yeah.
So it's a little trickier in your example, because you have teachers but we have to make sure that there's, whatever situation you've got going there is scalable to an outside organization who we do not, we can't do clearances and all for. So maybe we can just reconcile sort of that facilities use rules
Mhm.
with whatever's going on here.
Yeah, let me take that back with all this information and integrate it into a new proposal. But I think in concept, it's something that's worth making policy. Yeah.
do we still allow the military to come in and present?
They do not come into lunches. Nobody comes into lunches.
They used to, they don't
A
anymore.
long time
Years,
ago.
years ago.
They do come in, like our colleges do and our technical schools and present to kids who are interested, and we advertise that on more.
And then they sign up to
Yeah,
go down to the guidance office when they're there.
Next,
This will also be a number change when the time comes, because we already have a 122.1, so just so you know.
yeah, that was confusing.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Do not do that anymore.
Yeah.
So we're skipping 122 or?
so let's hold on 122 as a result of 122.1 being a work in progress, fair enough?
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
It looks like we are getting to our curriculum review policies, 105.1.
Okay.
That's 105.7.
Discussion ones. I will jump to those. What are you looking for?
I'm looking for, C, 105.1.
Is it not in
It's
here?
in the packet, it's there.
Seems like it.
You're looking at these single pages, I think.
I have too many papers.
I know you do.
Yeah, 105.1 was that simple add.
Put that right.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So you added the green because I was fussing about something, and I was happy with what you added.
I think that's the only thing we wanted to capture in that, right?
I think that's right. So I just wanted to capture the concept that parents didn't necessarily have to go through this whole big rigmarole to see things. That Go on to Canvas, you'll be
Safety
fine.
Students have access to, right?
Yeah, there's Observer accounts I know for Canvas. And then obviously, Google Classroom is our elementary students. So parents do have.
Yep.
I know there's parent Observer accounts for Canvas. I'm not sure what it looks like at the elementary level, but I would imagine there's something similar. Karen, do you know, Dr. O'Connell, do you know like what I think that Google Classroom parents have a full look at the kids do. Yeah,
I think.
Disciplines.
yeah, that applies. Yeah, whatever. It's just, and if we change from Canvas to something we
Yeah,
never know
should
exists
be
right now.
better,
the
for
language-
Yeah, grade level learning management system,
Yeah.
that's pretty evergreen. I was comfortable with that, yeah, I think that's a good addition.
We have one for first read.
Should I take it back?
Very good.
Keep on trucking, okay. 106,
106. Dr. O'Connell, do you want to
Yeah, that's
chat about
fine.
that one? I know.
Yeah,
this one
whose
some minutes.
handwriting is this? Dr.
That is,
Donnelly?
yes, it is his handwriting. So you'll see under guidelines to add a 6, suggested technology tools and/or descriptions of said tools that support the course would be included in 106 as new language. And then if you flip it onto the back, it says copies of all current guides for planned instruction shall be published to and made available on the district website.
That I like.
So that means there's no more hard copies.
Certainly, if someone needed a hard copy, we could print it out, with.
You're the
what we
only
have on
one.
the website.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
When this talks about the guides,
Yep,
that, the guide is the plan course.
yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, we could just make it, not use those interchangeably.
What are they called when like if I go to click it on the website, what is it?
I think it's the plan course statement,
Yeah.
I think.
Language statement.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, then we should call it plain course,
Okay.
let's matchy poo-poo.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm speaking like a 4-year-old today, but
okay.
So I was just curious about some language in here and, maybe it's necessary, I don't know, I'm just asking. So we use the terminology there in this, under guidelines, that the guides may contain. Is there a reason why you chose may instead of shall contain the things that are listed there? And then there's words like suggested and basic framework and selective.
can you repeat that? I got the may, can you say that second part again, I'm sorry.
So, and the second list is like suggested, so in 3 and 4, it says suggested. And then there's basic framework, that's down under delegation of responsibility, I think. And then selective manner, I think, is in that same paragraph. I don't see it.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay. So the selective, I guess I'm just wondering if the planned course statements are loose, a loose list of things, or if it's more designed to be specific.
Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with removing suggested. I'm sure suggested came through PSBA's model policy. I am not thinking that we threw suggested. To me, it doesn't matter if it says suggested activities or activities designed to achieve the objectives or methods of instruction or concepts. That to me is fine.
Well, again, I'm just curious, like, is this supposed to be a loosely created thing, or is this designed to be specific? That's, I guess, more my question.
I'll tell you, my read is that it should be specific but flexible. So I read that best designed to meet the needs of the student. So I would be worried if it was lockstep, so that if Johnny threw a marker at Sally, then we're off kilter and we can't Like, I don't want them to be following a script, which is more prescriptive than I think you're suggesting, but, so we have like the very scripted approach to what happens in the classroom that day, right? And then a loose approach, and I think, to me, this is, my concept would be somewhere in the middle, like, this is what we are planning to do. And if Johnny and Susie fight and we lose 10 minutes, then maybe we won't get to activity 5 or something like that. So I think there has to be flexibility for the needs of the children, and the cohort is going fast or slow, or, you know, all the things that I think or expect to arise in the
Yeah,
classroom.
you know, and this may not be a good example, but I'm just thinking of elementary art, for example. And in elementary art, and I don't even know if this is in the plan course statement, so bear with me. So there's a project that is masks, that is, and I'm sure you both remember.
I have many of them.
You have many of them. So that is a project, it's an activity, that meets one of the goals of the plan course statement. However, in another year, perhaps the art teacher wants to use something else, a different type of activity to teach the same concept.
The art thing,
So
art
to me,
concept.
correct, so to me, you know, I guess maybe it depends on how specifically the activities are listed. So if the activities include things like, we're gonna do a animal mask to represent a certain culture or whatever it may be, as a suggested activity, then be like, okay, this may come up, but that may be different the following year. And I don't know why masks in elementary
Yeah,
art is on my mind,
yeah.
but that would be, to me, an example of, yeah,
Right.
this mask project could need it, or
Right.
this project could need it.
Right, which I guess I could understand much more so in an area, subject area like that,
Okay,
you know? But when you're, you know, listing math or English kind of things where it seems to be more of a sequential, you know, building type thing, I don't think there's quite as much flexibility, but again, I understand, I absolutely agree with the flexibility, because you need to address the needs of the students. I absolutely get that. But I do think it's helpful to have at least suggested that, you know, or listed, see, now I'm using suggested, listed the various things that could potentially be
Yeah.
used. Whether they're all used or not, I don't know that that matters, but these are what are listed as potentials to be used. Does that make sense?
so then that would be suggested, correct?
Um,
So we'd be back to like suggested activities, like all of these activities would meet the goals of this course in any given year or course.
well, but I do think that those things should be reviewed regularly though and updated. So if something does change, I do think that should be changed.
So if it's loose
I
and,
don't know.
if it's,
And maybe we should have a planned course statement in front of us to see what it says, so.
so we have a lot of plan course statements and it
Right.
has said suggested, so I'm okay if it's, I mean, it says at the top, each plan course statement will change it, contains as appropriate to the planned instruction these areas.
Those are typically updated during the curriculum review cycles, though.
They
So they
are.
are updated, to Linda's point, they are updated. It happens once every 5 years. If it's a new course, it happens immediately.
Right,
When you take the CKLA, for example, I mean, that, because they were talking about that at EPS when they gave the review, how important it is for, because it follows, the curriculum follows patterns, so you know, from kindergarten, first, second, third. And right now, the third graders might be having a difficult time because they didn't have the CKLA previous,
Right.
prior to that. So is that what, Linda, is that what you're?
Well, that would make sense, right? So now that the CKLA is implemented, all of those things will need to be
followed
updated
according
and,
to-
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Mhm.
that's what I was wondering, what kind of curriculum you're talking about as
Mhm.
far as not following a plan guide, the guidelines.
It's been a while. I think when I looked at this in preparation for this the last time, if I recall. In looking at how some others did it, is this the area, Karen, that some of the districts are using that
The Atlas.
Atlas? Thank you.
Curriculum mapping, sure.
Yeah.
But that,
Yeah.
the curriculum map is not their plan course statement.
No.
So
Okay.
this is just on the
Okay.
plan course statement. This is the document that you would approve as a board,
Yeah.
goes before the board, is memorialized on the website. That's a whole different level of curriculum.
Okay,
Detail.
Thank you. I was like sharing.
right. So basically that goes back to my question that this is more of a loosely put together.
This is an overview.
Thing.
Put it way up here.
Mhm.
And then the curriculum map, as we were talking about, goes deeper. And then parents, again, have access to really look at that, who's
Right,
in
to
observer accounts, what's in there.
Right. So that Atlas thing, is the Atlas thing closer to the Canvas thing or whatever it is where parents can see the more specific stuff in day to day? Or is that somewhere in the middle?
So Canvas, like, yeah, and I think Canvas is really driven by the teachers.
Yeah.
Like, you'll see, like, the
Right.
teacher will put like, hey, might be our lesson today, or
Here's my
something.
dog.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's driven by the teacher.
Oh, okay.
Whereas the
So-
Atlas
the Atlas.
program shows, like, you'll see some of their plan course statements, but then you'll also see their curriculum maps, you'll see their pacing guides, you'll see their, like, these are our skills that we're focusing on. Again, each one's different, that's what I saw in Quaker Towns and in Richmond. What I don't know is, do we have curriculum maps and things like that?
No. We
Okay.
did it one time.
Yeah.
But they are,
Now, CKLA they've done it.
correct.
Like CKLA has
Yes,
done that.
that's
You will
lovely.
find
And
the
if you
curriculum
follow
maps,
that-
you'll find one pagers for every unit
Yes.
that has all of these things on there.
That's right.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
and if you're following that with fidelity and
Yes.
completely, and that's a complete
Yes.
program, then that
Yes.
works.
Yes,
If your textbooks are materials that you use,
Right.
it does not,
that's right. That's
it's
where
not
you go
done
to-
for you.
Right, that's right. That's right. And that's right. I think that, and Sylvia, I think you said this early on when we were talking about this, like, I think you said, like, like when you go in and look at, Canvas or whatever you look at, like, and you see what the teacher's teaching, that's more valuable to you than a plan course
Yeah.
statement. I totally get
I
that. And
absolutely.
I
get that.
absolutely agree with that.
Yep.
But I think that my thinking is that, yeah, the plan course statement is kind of what we do as a board, but what are the documents that align and articulate the curriculum, like the pacing guides, the unit plans, those things? I think that's probably what was in my head.
Makes sense.
So, I mean, the policy, it might not be in my mind, I'll just say,
It's
in my
not
mind,
quite
it might
here.
not be
It's
the
under-
policy that is, I'm gonna use the word issue, I don't mean that, but my question, I
Yeah.
guess, maybe it's more of the implementation of it.
So I would say if there's a time in the near or mid or distant future that the board would like to resume curriculum mapping, it was removed from the budget several years ago.
Yeah, the app, even like Apple, yeah. Yeah, I know we had a tile on the site.
Correct.
It was like-
There are other products
I
out
was just
there, I don't
gonna
want,
say,
just wanna say
right,
Atlas.
Right.
And if the curriculum map, as we're describing it, is handed to us, and we
Right.
can do that, wonderful.
Right, if
If
they have to create it, yeah.
it is extremely
And I know
time
teachers
intensive.
don't always love it, they don't.
Correct.
Because it's a lot of work.
It is a lot of.
That sounds more, I mean, I'm just
It's a lot of work.
following along,
Right.
that sounds more prescriptive, right? This, then this, then
It
this.
is and it isn't, but it will take care of different, like math, for example, and I'm
So-
always yammering about math.
Yes.
And so like 5th to 6th grade, where I think like, well, you have a gap, like I think that's a curriculum issue. So if
Correct.
you map out,
Yeah.
that's gonna
Who's
help.
doing
And
what
that was
when,
addressed
yeah.
by using everyday math in 6th grade.
Yeah.
I think one of the things too in math in particular is years ago, work was done to create common assessments. Regardless if you're, wherever you are in algebra, whenever you're taking
That's
it,
right.
it is a common assessment.
Yep.
So that is the assessment, so you have to back your way out.
Yep.
And to your point, Dr. O'Connell, like
Yeah.
at the high school, like I know the teachers have spent a lot of time on that and they, backward design.
Yep. Yep.
Like you start like at that pre-calc course,
Right.
if that's gonna be your senior course, and then here's what algebra 2 needs to cover, here's what algebra, it's,
Right.
so yeah, it's,
Like
like that happened
Yes.
through a lot of like
Right.
department meetings.
Right.
In planning
Well, I'll tell you in my non-edgy speaker way what I've heard, and maybe this will help. So we'll come back to this, but I think there's more work to be done that's under this.
Yeah, right.
So, number one, I think we should be using plan court statements, so let's make that throughout.
Yep.
Yeah, it isn't on there, by the way, though, it's like when you go into them now.
But we don't call it
doesn't- we
guides
don't-
either.
No, so
Yeah.
they're really not called anything, so I mean, I guess it could be, it doesn't.
You guys
Yeah.
call it whatever it's
Yeah.
called.
Right. So
I'm
there's-
sure the rest of the board will
Although,
agree.
actually, I'm wrong. Now here it says, like, up here, it says
Plan
third grade
course.
plan course,
Yeah.
it's called plan course guide.
All right, so plan course,
All right.
whatever it's
Well,
called.
and,
right,
but
whatever
to
it's
Karen's point, because I'm a sucker for consistency,
Yeah,
as we're reviewing, we'll go through a little bit of the guidelines here, but as Dr. Donnelly works through these, let's try to get them into a consistent format, into a consistent nomenclature. So there's some degree of, that doesn't mean we have to rewrite everything tomorrow, but as we sort of vet our way through these, it would be nice if they sort of look the same and have the same points. So to Linda's point, and to your point that suggested is fine either way, I am comfortable with sort of removing the suggested because my biggest concern is just meeting the needs of the children. And it does say in the next part, with this framework, each teacher shall use the plan course statements, insert term, in a selective manner best, I don't care if selective's in there or not, in a manner best designed to meet the needs of the students. That's what I care about.
Yeah,
Like, that's
yeah.
the sentence that I think is the critical for me, because I'm not gonna look at this thing at the policy I will. I'm not gonna look at the plan course statement as long as it gives the flexibility for the teacher to do what the teacher needs to do. So Sally and Johnny know their math.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I am comfortable just loosely tightening that up. Even the word basic, selective, it doesn't bother me. The only thing I push back on the administration here is systematic review. I kind of would like to move closer to annual, maybe annual is too much. If I'm hearing every 5 years, that feels like
yeah,
too little.
long, yeah.
So I would push.
Periodic. The shorter, I mean, I feel like the department heads, when they come together, do that, but it's not.
So here's,
Not
I think there's a
reflective.
difference between an overhaul, like every X number, like 3 years, you like overhaul them all. And then, so even like what we do with a policy, whatever we're doing now, sort of the regular, I've eyeballed this and I've updated the date because I've laid eyes on it. It's appropriate for this year, check. So the teacher does that. I don't know if it's a teacher department thing, so
Right.
perhaps that. So sort of that refresh, last review date, sort of on a regular basis. And then the deep review on a regular periodic, like that doesn't have to be done. We don't have
Got it.
time for that.
Yep.
That way, when somebody's pulling it up, it doesn't look like it hasn't been looked at in 10 years. So
Yeah.
maybe that's part of the formatting or the framework. So it says, last, updated, reviewed for the 24-25 school year, whatever. Just so it feels fresh and parents know that it's still applicable. Does that feel like a good direction to travel? Okay, so I feel like that's tightened things up, and then I'll kick it back to EPS to work on the other stuff that kind of goes under that. So we'll build one at a time.
Sylvia, how are you feeling?
I think we could do 107.
I think we get, let's get one of
Sylvia,
Sylvia.
but I think we can do this one.
No, that's, please.
So 107, the addition was based on conversation from our last meeting that there wasn't enough time for folks to review. So instead of, this would be a new paragraph right at the end. Curriculum materials will be made available for public review at least 7 calendar days in advance of the Educational Programs and Services Committee meeting at which the materials are being presented. So they will be presented in advance. You'll be able to come in and look at them. We'll let you know where they are. So that seemed to address the concern from last time.
I thought we were looking at 108 for that,
Oh, yeah?
the adoption of textbooks. I could be wrong. That's what I had noted, that that's where we.
Well, wherever we feel
No,
to put
I
it.
don't think so. I don't think we ever got to 108.
Yeah, but I think that's where we did want to stick that.
Let's just put that little paragraph wherever it's most appropriate.
Someone-
So we
yes.
capture,
Yes, that is on
That it'll be
708,
available.
108, excuse me, that was on 108. Yep, you are correct.
I will make a note that as EPS talks through the curriculum, whatever it is, that would end up in 107. So I think it's premature and I don't want to force the EPS into policy before substance. So that sounds like a substance decision as you guys talk. I don't know if you're going to, so those kinds of things could be built into 107 as needed. So EPS should kick that back to us when and if that becomes necessary.
so are we adding this to
So
108?
let me look at
Not
108.
Perfect for 107.
Yeah, I think Karen and I have debated this at like 16 policy meetings. I think it was 108 that we were.
The
Right,
only,
let's do
the
it.
only thing is
That's
that
what my
the
notes said.
sentence talk says curricular materials, whereas 108 talks about textbooks. So I don't know if there's
So,
like a difference there. I mean, like when you talk about, let's go back to the CKLA.
Yeah.
Everything was out for the CKLA.
And I
left
feel like
like
that's
2
the
units.
intent.
Yeah,
So if there's a textbook, then the textbook will be here, but if it's materials that come in a big box and
Yeah.
you've seen these, and we can have them
Yeah.
displayed, you come wherever to
but
look at
then what
them.
if it's like, and again, I'm thinking, like, what if it's like Mosa Mac, which is all digital?
That needs to
Well,
be
you should have
available too.
you should have access to that. We can make,
Yeah.
whether it's
So that,
pilot or
like,
dummy
okay,
accounts or
okay,
something,
okay.
sure.
Yeah, so that's why I just didn't know, like curriculum
that
materials
would
are a lot broader than textbooks, so I could go either place.
I guess my one question on this is the sequence. So, I'm not sure if that's where exactly I saw that. That's just what my note says, is the sequence. So something is proposed as a new curriculum. Then it goes to the board for approval. Are the planned course statements then developed?
Not,
After.
After all that, yeah,
After the approval,
yeah.
right? So what is this actually talking about then?
The adoption textbooks.
is that 108 or 107?
107, I'm sorry, 107. What is 107 talking about? Is that, because wasn't 106 the planned course statements,
Yes,
right?
correct.
Okay, so what is 107? Planned instruction,
So 106 is about the actual guides, the actual planned course statements themselves,
right?
whereas 107 is now the adoption of those planned course statements.
The board has to take action.
Yeah,
We just don't write them, like you need to approve them.
So 106
so, yeah.
spells out what we want in the planned course statements.
107 does too.
So the difference here? I understand.
No, I see what you're struggling with.
We
can see if you need it.
I was gonna say, they're pretty standard, right? I mean, these are.
I mean, I'm sure we have these because they were required at
I was
some
gonna
point.
say,
And
yeah.
we're gonna see a lot of policies that do that.
Okay,
So
okay.
if they're repetitive, or if one can be combined with the other, or we just, as we've talked about in other meetings, just keep them, because each time PSBA updates, then it will be this one.
Yeah.
I mean, we could see if
Okay, okay.
it's a required policy, if we feel like they're too close in intent.
They do look overlapping.
Well, if
We'll take a
somebody,
look.
I was gonna say, if
We'll take a look.
somebody has some insight to share with me, just reach out to me and let me know what that is, that's all. Bless you, bless you.
Guess we can.
They may have just, I know the screen went,
Tina, close the meeting.
We're still, no, the meeting's still going. Anything else, because Al is still.
The owls, even the owl's asleep at this point. No, I think, Linda, your point is well taken. I think it does double back.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just did a quick search and it says that 106 is really about the content of the curriculum guide. Well, 107 is the process by which a school board officially approves the curriculum. But again, these came from PSBA, didn't they? That's what I thought.
I mean.
If that's the case, Karen, then 107 is
That's what it says,
a bit
yeah.
low.
Maybe, yeah, but that's highly possible.
I hope PSB is watching.
I went back and forth.
Okay,
Thanks,
okay,
Tina.
well,
I just have to say.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
all right.
Oh, yeah.
So would you say we stopped at 107 here now, or were we gonna just add that
I think
adjusted
Yeah. Let's,
number to 108? Okay, so we actually did 108 too. Yeah, okay. So those were just up for discussion anyway, 106 and 107, correct? So there was no decision made here?
I think we are almost ready on we're probably ready on 106 now. I would tend to want to hold 106, 107, 108 and let them go together, but we're not quite ready on 107.
We can bring them back for.
I think they go back, sure.
Yeah.
They feel like they're
There's
friends.
no time.
I don't think there's any
sensitive.
urgency.
Yeah,
to say that.
Okay,
some of them were like,
okay.
but these aren't those.
These aren't those.
So we're gonna hold on to all three of those for now.
I thought
Or are we
108
gonna
could
do,
go.
are we gonna move
Yeah.
108?
I thought 108, if that's the one I'm.
I'm not opposed to moving on 108, but can you find out about 107 before we
Sure.
make an absolute decision on
Yes.
108, just in case 107 starts to double back on 108?
We can do that.
Fun.
Got it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right,
We
thanks,
okay?
everyone.
We okay to end the meeting then?
We are sorry. Yes, thank you, Rich.